If you were to search up the word diabolical, chances are the first thing you're gonna see is Randy Orton from the mid 2000s. The man on your screen came in third generation blue chipper in 2002, naturally gifted, athletic, the perfect sports entertainer right at WWE's fingertips, and we all know the bona fide legend he's become. But before he became that legend, he had to kill the old ones first. He etched his name in WWE history as one of the most barbaric, destructive, and calculated individuals of all time. To an entire generation, he's the Viper, but some will always know him as the Legend Killer. From 2003 to about 2008-9ish, this run was the epitome of fantastic storytelling, great character work, calculated risks, versatility, and a flat out insane body of work. So grab some food and maybe a drink, cause this is probably gonna be a long one. Here's how the story went. It all began when he joined Triple H in Evolution. Triple H wanted to build a group similar to the Four Horsemen. It started with him and Ric Flair, and they go on to recruit Batista and Randy Orton. Randy would get injured before the group really got going, but returned in May of 2003, and from here he kinda toiled around for a little bit. And then he started to hate on Mick Foley's book. Foley was going to be the special guest referee in a Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and Kevin Nash. So Randy and Foley brawl around the arena, and then they find themselves at this staircase, and you guys all know how the story goes from here. One swift kick and Mick went tumbling down the stairs. The funniest part about all of this is Vince just comes in afterwards and he's like, can we get a janitor? This was the beginning of a rivalry that would heat up later in the year. Randy kept racking up wins over the likes of Tommy Dreamer and Scott Steiner before he started to mock all of Shawn Michaels' in-ring tendencies, from the little strut to tuning up the band and using sweet chin music as a finish. Here's where the disrespecting Legends past and present thing really began. Victoria was taking on Fabulous Moolah on her 80th birthday on Raw. Moolah won, and then she got beat down by Victoria after the match. Out came Randy Orton and he's like, do you know who this woman is? She's a legend. Show her respect. And by the way, Randy Orton, Legend Killer. Bang, man RKO'd an 80-year-old woman, no remorse, no problem. Regardless, we were a few days away from Unforgiven, where Randy Orton beat Shawn Michaels. Then he became the sole survivor at Survivor Series for Team Bischoff. This would begin his dominance at the event throughout his career, and it's still going to this day. Took out Sergeant Slaughter. Then at Armageddon, Randy Orton beat RVD to become the Intercontinental Champion, and Evolution was draped in gold. Batista and Flair the tag champs, Triple H World Champion, and Randy Orton the new Intercontinental Champion. He'd now won his first singles title and was about to go on the longest Intercontinental Championship run in 7 years in company history. But you guys remember how I told you that he was reading Mick Foley's book? Well, Mick Foley had become a consultant for Eric Bischoff, a co-GM if you will, and Bischoff decided to gaslight Foley into fighting Orton. He's like, no one wants to see this Mick Foley, everyone wants the hardcore legend, and Bischoff added the caveat that if Orton lost to Foley, he'd quit Raw and leave it all for Mick, but if Mick lost, he was done. The match never ended up happening because Foley walked out of the match before it even started, and as Mick walked away, Randy simply said that Mick wasn't a legend, he was a coward. And then Randy Orton spat the biggest loogie in Foley's face. He continued to mock him, coming out to Foley's music, declaring himself the new hardcore legend. He'd leave tickets for Foley to come to the show, he'd hire limo drivers to come pick him up, but he never showed up. WWE even put these creative vignettes together showing Randy as the new face of hardcore. That brought us to the 2004 Royal Rumble, where Mick would come in and eliminate Orton from the match. And following this, he begged Orton to spit in his face again, and Orton did so, one for each cheek. We were on the road to WrestleMania 20, and the match we were going to get here was going to be Evolution, who kept outnumbering Mick, and a partner of his choosing, which ended up being The Rock. Randy was able to get the pin after hitting Mick Foley with an RKO, so technically he also beat The Rock on the same night too. But now what do you do? Following WrestleMania, it was time to raise the stakes. Randy's confidence grew, and he said he wanted Mick Foley one-on-one and that Evolution would be banned. Foley's like, alright, we'll ban Evolution, we'll put the IC Championship on the line. How about we also ban the rulebook? He wanted Randy Orton no holds barred in a hardcore match. Mick Foley was obsessed with what he wanted to do with Randy Orton. He wanted to show him not who Mick Foley was, but who Cactus Jack was. Someone who would take the most barbaric of punishment, claw back from the depths of hell, and do anything to win. Saying that Mick Foley may not want to kill Orton, but Cactus Jack on the other hand is ruthless and he won't hesitate to. And that brought us to the immortal night where Randy Orton announced his arrival to the world loud and clear. April 18th, 2004. This hardcore match between Mick Foley and Randy Orton was outstanding. Mick put over Randy big time, but both guys ate their fair share of punishment in a flat out legendary match. They put this hardcore stipulation on and they did it justice. From steel steps to barbed wires, some insane spots in this, to thumbtacks, and both guys were busted open. At the end of it, it was Randy Orton who took the win. The Legend Killer run was now in full force. He spat in Harley Race's face, he was feuding with Shelton Benjamin, he beat Edge, he dug Shelton Benjamin who beat Triple H twice on Raw. Shelton just kept asking for an IC championship match and then we eventually got it. Shelton pinned Randy twice and Randy retained at Bad Blood 2004. His confidence was sky high and at this point he was just this douchey kid who'd come out telling you that he was better than you, disrupting everyone in his path, saying that he's 24 years old and has accomplished more in 24 years than you will in your entire life. Good try, WWE. Good try. Following Bad Blood, Orton began a feud with Edge, who was also on the rise at this time and he'd returned from injury. Meanwhile, Evolution was still riding high. Triple H was taking a break from being in the main events and the World Heavyweight Champion, so he was focusing on Shawn Michaels and then eventually Eugene. Ring Around a Rosie, Bouncy Castles, aka Eugene's office, Lita's impregnation storyline. Raw during this time was something else. Randy lost his Intercontinental Championship to Edge at Vengeance, ending his reign at 210 days, but there was something bigger brewing for Randy Orton. After failing to get back the IC Championship, Randy won a 20-man Battle Royal to become the new #1 contender to the World Heavyweight Championship. He was headed to the main event of SummerSlam, but on that same show where Orton won the title opportunity, Triple H couldn't get the job done against Chris Benoit, and Triple H didn't seem very happy about Orton being the #1 contender. Triple H's life revolved around that championship. Randy pinned Benoit on Raw in a tag team match, and Orton was simply calling it destiny. It was his destiny to become the youngest world champion in WWE history. Brock had won the WWE title at age 25 in 2002. Randy was 24, and that's exactly what he did. In the main event of SummerSlam 2004, Orton, for the first time in his career, was the king of the industry. He won the World Heavyweight Championship, and he had done it at a very young age. WWE was showing that this is their guy moving forward. This also created this weird dynamic in Evolution. It was always Triple H who was the top guy and the world champion, but now it looked like it was Orton's turn to lead. Only problem is, Triple H, he's not about that side character life. Bro, look at this man. This dude looks like $1 million and a complete stud. Confetti falling down, dressed in a suit. He, in all his glory, was greeted by Benoit, who wanted a rematch the night following SummerSlam, and at the end of the night, Orton beat Benoit for the second time in 24 hours. Evolution came out to help Randy Orton, and the celebration was underway. Thumbs up from Triple H, giving one of his two prodigies his flowers right away, but that thumbs up went down, and so did Randy Orton. Orton was kicked out of Evolution right then and there, and Triple H gave Randy an ultimatum. Put the title in his hand, lay down flat in the ring and take the pin 1, 2, 3. But Orton didn't do that. Spat in Triple H's face and the face turn was underway. It really would have benefited WWE to wait a little bit, maybe keep Orton in Evolution and just slowly draw things out, but they didn't. The plan was to see how Orton would fare as a top guy. He'd come out doing the most run-of-the-mill stuff, talking about how Evolution was all about Triple H and how he was using others, how he beat Benoit and Triple H couldn't. Long story short, Randy Orton as a babyface would say stuff like this.
He beat Randy Orton.
I mean, how are you supposed to all of a sudden cheer for a guy who is just destroying everyone in his sight, being the biggest sleazeball? Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the gender. If you fell off a cage, you could have been on a ventilator and Randy Orton would have RKO'd your ass. For Orton, the end of his first title reign came at Unforgiven, where Triple H won back the World Heavyweight Championship, but for Randy Orton, the chase continued a short while after that. He was still hopping out of cakes and embarrassing Triple H. At this time, the RKO also started to be presented as big league because of how sudden and impactful the move was. Orton could hit it out of nowhere, but his quest for the world title and experiment of being one of Raw's top guys was unfortunately over by October of 2004. He beat Ric Flair in a steel cage match at Taboo Tuesday, Team Orton beat Team Triple H at Survivor Series, And heading into 2005, it was just kind of whatever. He didn't have much momentum to him. He'd regressed. He was kind of lost. He couldn't get the job done at New Year's Revolution, where Triple H again regained the world title. And the plan headed into WrestleMania 21 was for Randy Orton to face off against Triple H and definitively beat him. But instead, Batista caught fire and those plans were changed. Orton, because of his backstage antics, his immaturity, and how he didn't click as a babyface, was ruled out. And let's also set one thing straight. There's a lot of talk about how his reactions as a babyface were really bad. That is completely not true. You can search up clips for yourself. The crowd loved him. The issue here was, what's he supposed to be? Look at him. Everything to be a bad guy is on his side. Why would he come out pretending to cry? Randy was going to have one more shot at the world title at the Royal Rumble, which he ended up losing. And he had a couple weeks of fighting randoms. WrestleMania was just a few weeks away, and it didn't look like Orton was going to make it onto the card. He talks to Shawn Michaels and he's like, alright, Mania season's coming up, where do I go from here? Who can I wrestle? Shawn himself didn't know. The next week he runs into superstar Billy Graham and he tells them that, alright, last year you beat Mick Foley, this year you should step out and become someone very unique. And Randy's got a magazine in hand, puts it down, and on the cover of the magazine is The Undertaker. Now we're at that legendary feud between The Undertaker and Randy Orton. Orton came out the next week and he laid out his challenge for WrestleMania. He wanted The Undertaker. He wanted to end the 12-0 streak. He wanted to go back to killing legends. RKO'd Eric Bischoff and he was a heel again. The next week on the highlight reel, RKO's Jake the Snake Roberts, goes to SmackDown, bitch slaps The Undertaker, who used his mystical powers to scare the living shit out of Orton. But the next week, what does Randy Orton do? He RKO's his own girlfriend on live television, planted a kiss on her, but because she didn't show full confidence in him, the man had gone fully psychotic. If you didn't believe in him, he was gonna kill you. He didn't care, man, woman, animal, bus, truck, child. He was gonna end you right then and there. Orton had bit off a little bit more than he could chew, and his dad went to SmackDown and he was talking to The Undertaker, basically begging him to have mercy on his son. But of course, it was all a ruse. The match at WrestleMania 21 was really fun. So many close falls, a fantastic chokeslam into an RKO counter. This ended with Undertaker making his streak 13-0. Rumor has it that Orton was supposed to beat the streak but respectfully declined. He was also late for the rehearsal of this match, himself admitting, quote, "I was 24 and a little bit of a prick back then." Randy had come the closest of anyone to ending the streak, but this rivalry wasn't over just yet. Randy took on Batista the next night on Raw and he injured his shoulder, causing him to be out for 4 months. He was away until July of 2005. He returned, this time as a member of the SmackDown brand. Undertaker was facing JBL, and from behind, Orton hit an RKO to keep this thing going. And here's where he went fully psychotic. He said he wasn't gonna rest until he beat The Undertaker. It got into his head that he could beat anyone he tried to, but The Undertaker was a hurdle that he just couldn't overcome. So the match was made official for SummerSlam. But Undertaker made sure that Randy Orton would have nightmares, fogging up ringside, sending cryptic videos on the Titantron. Just look at Randy Orton's face. The SummerSlam match was okay, and the finish saw Randy Orton get the win after Bob Orton dressed up as whatever this is, and Bob Orton remained at Randy's side for the rest of this rivalry. After SummerSlam, even though Taker was gone, Randy would not stop talking about his win, telling everyone that he's auctioning off a DVD for Taker's retirement fund, and the legend of The Undertaker was dead, and that was all thanks to him. Brought out a check for Taker's retirement fund, and Taker used his superpowers to burn this check. Randy also decided to get in on these mind games. Him and his dad brought out a casket, but this wasn't just something that was to spook Taker out. These guys put an Undertaker mannequin into the casket to mess with him. Little did they know that this was the actual Undertaker. So they're facing off the next week, and Taker beat Orton that night on SmackDown. So head to head the record was 2-1 Undertaker. But things were far from over. These two men were obsessed with caskets. At this point, Taker put both the Ortons in a casket to mess with them. Since it was 2-on-1 and no mercy, Taker was going to wrestle both Ortons in a handicap match, and the Ortons went on to win this match. But it was the aftermath of this match that was the craziest part. With the Undertaker locked inside this black casket, the Ortons wheeled this thing up to the top of the ramp, Randy Orton uses an axe to pick a hole into the casket, then he pours gasoline onto it and they light it on fire. This man, Randy Orton, legitimately committed murder on live pay-per-view. So great, it's over, nothing to worry about, no more spooky shenanigans, Orton's killed him off, he can chill. Orton was doing his thing, RKOing Roddy Piper on Raw, then proceeding to kick his ass on SmackDown, and at Survivor Series, SmackDown beat Raw, and Randy Orton for the third straight year was the sole survivor. Everyone comes out, they're lifting Orton on their shoulders, it's a party in the ring, but the party gets crashed when we hear this. Poetically, out of a casket that was lit on fire came The Undertaker. Look at Randy Orton's face. He knows that he goofed up. This rivalry was gonna end definitively, but not before Orton did something psychotic again. 2 weeks after the unfortunate passing of Eddie Guerrero, Randy loaded up Taker on the back of Eddie's lowrider, which was placed on the ramp in respect. He put it into reverse and sent Undertaker through the SmackDown set. That probably wasn't the best idea. Orton came out saying that he killed Taker, but you guys already know. How are you going to kill something if it's already dead? Taker did some next level trolling with voice recordings, putting a casket in the arena aisleway, and now Orton was just completely scared, full on having his life destroyed by The Undertaker. He was begging for mercy, asking himself how Taker was still alive. On the next SmackDown, Randy came out and he was completely scared, begging Taker to come out because he was scared shitless. Randy was almost in tears. Randy goes to freshen up later in the show. Out pops The Undertaker. So much so that Orton had to see a sports psychologist because he was being freaked out that much. So Randy's like, I can't live with this. I can't face Taker inside Hell in a Cell. I don't want my grandkids to see me in a wheelchair. He's gonna kill me. He's gonna take me to hell. This, that, and the other. So to back out of the match, Randy announces his retirement from the WWE. But again, it was all a setup. Beats down The Undertaker into a bloody pulp, but Taker would eventually go on to win inside Hell in a Cell. Headed into 2006, Orton shifted back to the world title scene. Batista relinquished the world title due to injury, and the title was won by Kurt Angle. At this time, WWE ran a storyline where Rey Mysterio was fighting in Eddie Guerrero's honor. He won the Royal Rumble, and the last person he eliminated to win it was Randy Orton. Randy asked Rey to put the #1 contendership on the line, but Rey hesitated, and Randy went, yo, Rey, you're looking up at Eddie in heaven. He ain't in heaven. Eddie is down there in hell. Nuclear heat. Should they have done this? Probably not, but then again, it's not my show. Randy Orton won his way into the #1 contendership at WrestleMania, and for Rey, it looked like the journey was over. Kept trolling everyone, whether it was stealing Rey's entrance, jumping out from the stage, shitting on Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio in interviews, winning in the most sleazebag ways, gaslighting opponents to go up against one another. This man was a tactical genius, and after that slump as a babyface, he was back to form. That Taker feud, it was so instrumental in building Randy Orton right back up again. Rey got added back into the match, which he'd eventually go on to win at WrestleMania. And going back, I found that one episode where Randy used This Fire Burns as a one-off. It didn't work for him at all, in my opinion. That'll always be CM Punk's, even though he hadn't used it yet. Following WrestleMania, Randy competed in the King of the Ring tournament before being written off with an ankle injury. In reality, he'd been suspended for 60 days because he got caught smoking a joint. This, coupled with his outbursts of anger on the road, had WWE thinking that we gotta ground this guy and we gotta show him that if you make mistakes, you gotta be held reliable. Because remember, he was still really young at this time. When he returned, he went back to being a Raw superstar and took out the man who took him out, and that was Kurt Angle. Lost to him at One Night Stand and then beat him at Vengeance 06, and the Legend Killer found a new target after this. And that person was Brooke Hogan, Hulk Hogan's daughter. He asked Hulk Hogan, he's like, hey, you should let me take her out. I know how to handle the ladies. Let me introduce myself to her. But Hulk didn't want that. Saturday night's main event, the Hogans are in the ring and out comes Randy Orton. Challenges Hulk Hogan to a match at SummerSlam and he accepted. So Orton attacked Hogan in the parking lot, RKO'd his ass onto a trunk, but he was more concerned about Hogan's daughter Brooke. By the way, yo, her music, it got mad views. He introduced the world to the cast of Orton Knows Best and then decided to RKO fake Hulk Hogan, kissing knockoff Brooke Hogan in the process. Cheap shotted Jerry Lawler, low blowed him, beat him in matches, RKO'd fake Hogan, and eventually at SummerSlam, Hogan beat Orton. that's another huge rivalry in his cap. Feuded with Carlito for a bit, and then came the tag team of our nightmares, when two egomaniacs came together and decided to ruin the life of everyone in their path. Edge invited Randy to the cutting edge, and he's like, Randy, you're amazing, you're fantastic, you're just like me, but your downfall all comes down to evolution. It comes down to Triple H's selfishness, that Randy had one person to blame for his shortcomings, and that was Triple H. He of course had reformed DX with Shawn Michaels, and DX had cost Edge the WWE title against John Cena. So over a common enemy, these two decided to form a tag team called Rated RKO. They came out impersonating DX, poking fun at their age, before they beat them at Cyber Sunday, which was actually one of very few times DX lost in this run. Huge feather in their cap again. The next night, Rated RKO had a tag team title match that DX interfered in. This led us to a Survivor Series match where it was Team DX versus Team Rated RKO. 2 weeks before this match, these sickos captured the World Tag Team titles. Team DX won at Survivor Series, but these two maniacs, they weren't done. They left Flair bloodied, and to end Raw, it looked like an absolute crime scene. These bastards first beat down Flair, who was completely helpless, blood pouring from everywhere, and then they hit him with a concerto. Twice. Then, when they were done with him, 2 concertos to Triple H and a double RKO to Shawn Michaels. I'll probably get in trouble if I show you how bloody everyone was, but man, they were such good heels. They'd stand over top of people with the 2 most punchable faces in the world just yelling, "How do you feel, you son of a bitch? Try me, you son of a bitch. Get up, you son of a bitch." And the other person couldn't do a damn thing about it. Raws were ending like legitimate crime shows from the early 2000s. People left with weapons on them, blood pouring from everywhere, chair attacks, suspects, culprits, you name it. Their match at New Year's Revolution 2007 against DX ended in a no contest when DX just decided, alright, we don't want to win, we just want to beat the shit out of these guys. Randy decided to kill another legend with Edge. This time it was Jim Duggan who caught it. They concertoed him, and there were slow hints of the breakup coming as WrestleMania 23 was coming up. They lost the tag team titles to John Cena and Shawn Michaels after Triple H got injured, and both of them hunted for a WWE title match at Mania, but they were unsuccessful. Instead, they entered the 3rd annual Money in the Bank ladder match. Edge was playing mind games with Orton, getting him put into matches that he didn't want to be in, so he'd walk into WrestleMania all bruised and battered. And at WrestleMania, that didn't really matter. Both of them were unsuccessful at their chase of the Money in the Bank briefcase, but following this, Randy Orton said that he wanted the WWE Championship, and that led us to a phenomenal match at Backlash 2007. Cena, Edge, Michaels, and Orton for the WWE title. In my opinion, this match still doesn't get its due for just how awesome it was. But for Orton, this wasn't so awesome because he lost. See, throughout this video, things have been pretty up and down for Orton, but there's been way more ups than downs. But for most of it, he's been a sicko heel. He's killed legends, he's left people bloodied, he's destroyed everyone in his path, he's set caskets on fire, RKO'd 80-year-old woman, his own girlfriend, legends of every shape and size. Slowly, he started to become the most destructive version of himself again, had another feud with HBK beating him at Judgment Day, and then started to call himself the Legend Killer again. After a feud with RVD, he went back to destroying legends, and he introduced what would become synonymous with him. A move that, if hit in real life or even in the WWE, would have seriously either injured or potentially killed someone. And that was the punt. Beat Dusty Rhodes in a Texas Bull Rope match, punted his ass out right there. Next up on Orton's hit list was Sergeant Slaughter. Lights out for him. Goodbye. See you at the hospital. At SummerSlam, it was going to be Cena versus Orton, and in the build-up to this match, this man Randy Orton was laying out John Cena at every turn. The two had a great match at SummerSlam 07. It's sometimes forgotten because of the negative connotation of this rivalry. After SummerSlam, Orton wanted a rematch, but Cena didn't accept. So, Orton took matters into his own hands. What do you do when no one listens to you? Yeah, you kick their dad in the head. Randy decided to punt out John Cena, and as he goes for the wind-up, he's about to connect, he stops. It's like a light bulb goes off in his head, and in the crowd is Cena's dad. He pulls him over the barricade and just rips a punt right into John Cena Sr. At Unforgiven, Orton won the match by DQ because Cena just lost his mind and he wanted to kill Orton. After that, Cena's dad punted out Orton. The night after Unforgiven, it's Randy Orton versus John Cena. Not that John Cena though, John Cena Sr. Randy wanted to make sure that father and son had a little bit of bonding time together. So what does he do? He handcuffs John Cena to the ring rope, and Randy Orton slowly, methodically takes his time to destroy Cena's dad, while Mr. Invisibility can't do anything but watch. Randy was leaving a path of destruction, and after the punt, no one could stand, so at No Mercy, it was going to be a last man standing match for the WWE title. That match never happened because Cena got injured, so Mr. McMahon simply presented the WWE title to Randy Orton, and on this night, there were 3 different WWE title matches. Triple H weaseled his way into a championship match, he won it, defended against Umaga later on before Orton would win again at the end of the night. One thing that I forgot to mention was when he feuded with Shawn Michaels, he took him out, but 5 months later, Michaels was back for revenge. At Cyber Sunday, Randy defended against Michaels, and he got himself very conveniently disqualified to retain the WWE title. This man was squeaking out wins in the most nefarious of ways. Low blow to HBK when he was about to hit Sweet Chin Music, and this man knew exactly what he was doing. Shawn Michaels pinned Randy Orton in a tag team match and got another chance at the WWE title at Survivor Series, but the rules this time were if Shawn used Sweet Chin Music, he'd lose and could never challenge as long as Randy was WWE champion. But if Orton intentionally got DQ'd, which was something that was becoming a trend, he'd lose the WWE title. The loser of this match was HBK, but next up for Orton was Chris Jericho. After 2 years away, Y2J was back. At Armageddon, Randy retained his title against Jericho because JBL interfered and took him out. His reign so far was really good. Next up for him was Jeff Hardy. Hardy pinned Randy in late 07, and they were going to face off at the Royal Rumble. Randy was just talking slow, his cadence was low, he looked like he was on drugs, and you had no clue what was going on inside his mind. Randy Orton just casually decided, alright, I'm feuding with Jeff Hardy, let me punt out his brother backstage while he's wrestling. At one point, he tried to punt out Jeff Hardy at the top of the stage, but Hardy went nah. Went to the top of the truss, hit a swanton bomb, and the next week, Randy Orton just casually steals his move too. Twist of fate, see you later. For Jeff, it wasn't his time just yet. Randy retained the title, but for Orton, an old foe returned on that same show, and that was John Cena. He won the Royal Rumble, and this idiot Cena didn't want his match at WrestleMania. He wanted it at No Way Out. Also, it should be noted that at this time the Viper name came in, but we're gonna go a little bit longer. Cena at No Way Out won by DQ when Orton slapped the referee in the face to get himself disqualified, and on that same night, Triple H became the #1 contender to the WWE Championship. Now, look how far we had come. 4 years previous, he was kicked out of Evolution and kind of failed to find his way. Now he was on the best run of his career, doing the best character work in probably the entire company, and we were about to get the one-on-one rivalry. Only that wasn't going to happen just yet. Cena won his way into this match because, of course, it's Super Cena, and all 3 men got to book the main event for 3 weeks leading to WrestleMania. You guys remember when Cena and Orton had to face the entire Raw roster? Yeah, that was Triple H booking before Triple H booking was even a thing. Randy retained at WrestleMania 24, and the next night on Raw, he came out bragging about all the people he had beat, and honestly, his run at this point was ridiculous. John Cena, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, RVD, Mick Foley, 80-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 90-year-olds, 12-year-olds probably. It didn't matter. His rise at this point was legendary. Following Mania 24, it was Backlash 2008, where it was a fatal 4-way for the WWE title between JBL, Triple H, John Cena, and Orton, where Triple H became the new WWE champion, ending Orton's reign at 203 days. An absolutely dominating run. This began a proper rivalry between Orton and Triple H, which would take over Raw for the next year. Randy was out here appearing like The Undertaker, hitting Triple H with an RKO. This feud so far, it wasn't anything too special. It was your standard run-of-the-mill stuff. Give me a title match. No, go earn your title match. Screw you, Evolution, this, that, and the other. But Orton found a way to get a match at Judgment Day inside a steel cage, which he would go on to lose. On the May 12, 2008 episode of Raw, Randy Orton debuted Voices because this man hated Burning My Light. Just a few weeks later, a rematch occurred. This time, it was a last man standing match at One Night Stand. Here, Randy Orton went for an RKO, but Triple H reversed it and sent him tumbling over the top rope, and Randy flat out just let out the biggest scream ever. He'd injured his collarbone, and he flat out said that my collarbone is broken. This is a match that he was actually scheduled to win. And also, thankfully, Randy didn't land on the steps that were just inches away from where he ended up. Orton would now be gone for 4 months. Awful for Orton, but honestly, this timing was perfect because he came back crazier, more psychotic, and more remorseless than ever. Here is the peak of Randy Orton's insanity. This man went full on berserk. On the September 2008 episode of Raw, Randy returned to the WWE. His return was delayed because he injured himself on a motorcycle, and it was on this night where we got the earliest hints of the group that would go on to be known as Legacy. Randy told them to impress him, and over the next little bit, Manu, Ted, and Cody Rhodes did exactly that. They took out CM Punk at Unforgiven and cost him the World Heavyweight Championship, to which Randy Orton was quite impressed. The thing with Randy when he returned was he was saying that he couldn't be touched because he was still injured. When CM Punk shoved him down, he told Raw GM Mike Adamle to resign as GM. The thing was, there was nothing wrong with Orton. He was faking so he couldn't compete. So the McMahons intervened and they're like, nope, you're fine. Rhodes, Manu, DiBiase, they kept trying to help Orton, but Orton punted out DiBiase. At Survivor Series, we got Team Orton versus Team Batista, with Orton's team taking the win. And then in December, the group became official. Randy Orton said that the legacy had officially begun. Fitting enough, their first match as an official group was against Triple H and Batista. Batista beat Orton at Armageddon and Orton punted him out and put him on the shelf. Now we were in 2009 and Manu was kicked out of Legacy once Ted DiBiase returned. You know how I said that the McMahons were involved in this? Well, this is probably the storyline that you guys may be waiting all video to see. Mike Adamle resigned as the Raw GM and in his place was Stephanie McMahon. She put Orton in a match against CM Punk and Orton was getting pissed because he didn't get any WWE title matches. So Orton went into Steph's office. He pissed off Steph and Steph slapped Randy. Later in the night, Mr. McMahon returned and Randy came down to the ring and he's like, Steph's worthless, Steph's this, that, and the other, screw your daughter. She's basically useless now that she's popped you out some grandkids. Vince was pissed and he asked Randy to apologize to his daughter, and if he didn't, he was gonna terminate Randy Orton right then and there. And right as Vince is about to say you're fired, Randy beats his ass and punts him in the head. Steph rushes down and she's an emotional wreck, watching her 65-year-old father get kicked flush in the head. The way Steph was crying, you'd think that Vince was actually dead. To add insult to injury, the following weekend, Randy won the Royal Rumble. He entered at number 8, and the last person he eliminated to do so was Triple H. We needed an explanation from Orton. Why did he do what he did? He told everyone that he had intermittent explosive disorder, that he had mental problems, that he had a loss of control resulting in outbursts of physical violence. He had lawsuits ready for Steph if she was going to fire him, injunctions. He was full on ready to cancel WrestleMania. Basically, he's like, I have mental issues and you can't use that against me. He said that WWE knew about it and did nothing about it. So what does Steph do? Instead of firing him, she brings back Shane McMahon to fight for his dad. This man Randy was backstage about to punt out Stephanie McMahon before Shane took the bullet for his sister and caught one right in the chest. The No Way Out match was a fun brawl that slowed down towards the end. Randy Orton RKO'd his ass and took the win, and on that same night, Triple H won the chamber match to become WWE champion. So it's the night after No Way Out, and Shane challenged Randy to a rematch, thinking if it didn't work the first time, it'll work the second. And Steph's like, no, please don't do it, because she knew that Randy was gonna destroy this man. But we all know Shane's obsession with self-inflicted pain. End of the night, both guys kill each other, but it ends like it always does when Randy Orton's involved, with a punt kick. Steph comes down and she's crying over her fallen older brother. Steph's crying, she's a wreck, she looks like she's about to faint. And then Randy Orton takes things one step further by RKOing Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, he had the balls to do that. He was hearing voices in his head, and the voices told him, that person right there, hit an RKO. He immediately realized what he had just done, and Randy's acting was top notch. He spun this saying that he was the victim and the McMahons were intentionally trying to provoke him, and then Triple H entered this story trying to protect his wife. They had a full-on chase scene on Raw. Randy ran away from Triple H, who was incensed. This man was chasing down Randy Orton, ready to go full Aaron Judge on his head. He locked himself in a locker room, tried to barricade things up before escaping in a car. Literally the most chicken shit heel tactics, and Triple H was swinging for the fences. The match was made official for WrestleMania 25, not before Orton tried to get Triple H thrown in jail though. But this thing was personal. Triple H literally said that he was gonna break Randy's neck, and Randy kept pissing off Triple H every opportunity he had. So Legacy beat down Triple H on SmackDown, and Randy's like, Alright, I think I have to go into retreat because Triple H, if it's one-on-one, he's probably going to do something really bad to me. So he's watching the show from home. He didn't show up to WWE. It was going to be a 2-on-1 handicap match, Triple H versus Rhodes and DiBiase. Randy, as I said, was chilling at home. But Triple H didn't show up to this match to wrestle Legacy. He showed up at Orton's house and he hunted him down. This home invasion was epic. Triple H just stalking Randy Orton in his house for a little bit, looking in every single corner to find Orton, and then once he found him, they brawled. Orton goes through the window and Triple H got arrested. 2 weeks before Mania, Legacy beat down Triple H viciously and they handcuffed him to the ring rope. He was defenseless and he couldn't do anything. Randy Orton's there and he's like, okay, only one person can save you now, and she'd better hurry. They beat him down with a sledgehammer, and Orton is about to kill Triple H with a sledgehammer. But down comes Steph. I know some of you probably waited the entire video for this one. Steph gets boxed in. She has no choice but to get in the ring. She's begging and pleading for her husband to be let go. Just as she's about to step in, Randy hits a draping DDT to Stephanie. Triple H can't do anything but watch. That's bad enough, a draping DDT in front of her husband, but he takes things one step further. He's got Triple H's sledgehammer in hand, and only he knew what was going on in his head at that time. He looks like he's about to finish off Stephanie for good, but instead, he throws away the hammer. With Triple H handcuffed, Randy turns over an unconscious Stephanie McMahon, plants a kiss right onto Stephanie in front of the man she's married to. He systematically destroyed the McMahons one by one, and everything had come full circle. It was Triple H versus Randy Orton, and this is the most vicious Randy had ever been. Triple H, Shane, and Vince came out and they got revenge for Steph and they beat the hell out of Legacy. And the match at WrestleMania was won by Triple H. He retained his title, and this match, not so good. Epic rivalry. Anticlimactic match. For Randy, he'd win the title on and off throughout the year. He was still berserk trying to blow up John Cena with pyro, but this was peak Sicko Randy Orton, and this run of 6 years was his greatest consecutive run of work in his career, in my opinion. The rivalries gave us memorable moments, the matches were special, the run just became iconic. The Legend Killer is forever one of WWE's best characters ever. Did it all hit? No, but it hit way more times than it missed. They've tried to revive this character so many times, most notably during the pandemic when Randy started wearing night vision goggles, but this original run, it was just beautiful. It just worked. You had this upstart douchey kid, just have him go out and make him look like he's better than everyone. I'd pinpoint the Triple H feud in '09, the Foley Rivalry, and the Undertaker Rivalry as the height of this run. When he went full bald, this dude was something else. His matches were well done. He's one of the greatest heels of all time. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with me that this is his greatest collection of character and in-ring work together? Or do you think of a different time frame? Honestly, I don't think this peak has been matched at all. These good or bad videos, I try to keep them under 25 minutes, but this one went a bit long, 6 years in under 30 minutes. I tried, but I just couldn't get it. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Do take very good care of yourself. Peace.